What's up, chat? Going. Good to be back. Back with Maeve.
It's me. I I can't see
Um,
myself. I'm someplace.
yeah, he whatever direction he's next to me. He's over there. He's on the other side of the screen, right?
That way.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, one of those fingers was right.
Hmm.
um, I am to the side of you where your doll is. That
Ah,
direction, whatever direction that is for you.
that
Yeah.
that
Yeah, there you
direction.
go. Yeah, that direction. Now you're pointing at me. Okay, so
Great.
now that we've gotten that worked out, right?
Hmm.
Um, all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday edition of the Malice Experience. As per usual, yes, I am joined by Maeve. We are going to be talking about, yes, yet again, goth culture. We're going to give this fashion thing, we're going to kind of dive back into that, but we're with a little bit of a different angle because with the Malice Experience and the Mr. Malice channel, all of you have come to expect it, as you should, content that deals with the occult. And now within that, goth culture has always been kind of like a big thing for me, equally as the, you know, occult has been. I kind of want to incorporate the two of them together. And we came up with a concept, an interesting concept, which is quite true if you break it down and you kind of look at it, right? Rituals have a tendency of becoming routines, right? And routines have a tendency of becoming rituals. And as such is fashion and the design of fashion, the things that we decide to wear. We kind of take what is internal and we externalize that, right? Whether that's how you feel or how you see yourself or something you want to emulate. I mean, a lot of our fashion choices when we were younger came from trying to emulate musicians and things like that. And it wasn't just emulating the musicians, it was on the basis of emulating that power, right? Emulating that force that you felt through that musician, right? Kind of becoming a part of that. And so we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about fashion as a ritual, okay? And kind of break that down. So if we go to the very basics, just the ritual of getting ready in the morning to go to work, and then the ritual of, getting ready to go to the club or going out with friends, or the ritual of going to bed, all involve some type of change in yourself externally, yeah? And how you present yourself. It's actually, I would kind of break it down to um, glamour. Like,
Yes.
so something along the lines of kind of like glamour, right? Because, you go to work dressed a particular way, so people there view you a particular way. And then when you go out at night, you dress a different way. So the people that you know or the people that don't know you see you yet again in another way. So it's very, very tuned to kind of being like, glamour, in a magical sense by using the mundane. I mean, Maeve, what would you like to add on top of that?
Well, while we were talking, I just happened to put my rings back on, and that's one of those things I do every morning. So it'll be ritualistic. So I put on the ring, which was my father's ring, has meaning for me, has energy, and has thought. My other ring I put on, uh, as far as all of that, yeah, that ritual and getting dressed in the morning and deciding what I want to wear, how I want to present myself, that that really sets the mental tone of who I am and who I want to be that day. And one where I'm going with that in my mind is it's all down to energy and how I want to project that out into the world as well. In part, it is partially setting my boundaries up, setting my own um,
Mm-hmm.
um, trying to think the right word here. Um, Shields, more or less, metaphysically,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
on those lines. So I'm setting that image of myself in my head, and I'm working with that as I'm getting dressed, as I'm getting ready, as I'm putting on any jewelry I'm putting on, what clothing I'm wearing, the shoes I'm wearing, the boots I'm going to wear. All of that is a mental sort of preparation and physical. preparation for battling the
Hmm.
day.
I definitely can agree with that sentiment. Like I think how you kind of get dressed, um, yeah, as you're kind of going forward, you know, um, it's it does kind of feel like getting ready for battle, doesn't it? Especially like when you're going to work and things like that. It kind of feels like almost like putting on armor.
100%. Um, and for someone who feels like they absorb everything, and I do, it's one of those things. It's that's very important to maintain that part of myself so that I don't get lost in everything else that I'm exposed to and absorbing throughout the day. So
Hmm.
that's one of those rituals and reaffirmations, more or less, to ensure that part of me stays.
Exactly. No, no. I think kind of like understanding, like I mean, it can be something super mundane, right? Like getting ready for the day can be something super mundane, and you don't even think about it. You're like, okay, well, shit, I just gotta put clothes on and go to fucking work. I mean, that's it. I think we passed the 5 minute mark. Did we pass the 5 minute mark? Because I just dropped an F bomb. I have no idea. Yeah, we're 12 minutes in. We're good. All right. Uh,
Yeah.
right. I don't want to lose potential future monetization for the clip just because I dropped an F bomb too early. Anywho, so yeah, getting ready can be definitely super mundane. And you'd be just like, yeah, well, shit, you just got to get clothes on, whatever. But I think a lot of us, like, within the occult, like, I mean, if you think about it, within the occult, like when you get ready to do an actual ritual, some people kind of stay in, you know, um, their normal attire, but a lot of us will throw on robes and different types of pendants and jewelry and things like that are ritual specific. That
Mhm.
help us kind of center and focus and kind of move in on something a little bit heavier. And I think that your day to day life. I think a lot of people within the occult, don't look at you know the necessity really of bringing that energy, that magic into your day to day life. That everything that you do can become, a ritual. And I think within the goth culture, I think we kind of understand that a little bit more, right? Because like when you're getting ready to go out and stuff like that, and people are going to look at you. Like there's a sense of like we want people to look at us. Like we wouldn't dress the way that we do, you know, there's I think there's an understanding that people are just going to look, right? Like when you go out extreme and you got the chains and the spikes and the black leather and all of that shit, the contacts, the makeup, the whole works. People are going to look, right? The idea is like you want to kind of be as far out there as you can, and there's a certain amount of, at least for me, there's a certain amount of power when people look at me, that I look such a particular way that I force people to divert their attention to me. And I think there's a certain amount of power to that. Like there's a certain amount of
One, yes, you're right. It's a bit of control and power, but also, if you're coming from a place where you've never really felt seen or heard, noticed, and now suddenly you can dress a way that feels good to you and people notice you, that does have a lot of benefits to your self-esteem as well.
mm-hmm.
Just want to add that other dynamic to that.
And I think all of this kind of just comes back to kind of power building, like inside of yourself. Like not,
Yes.
I mean the slight control that you feel or the slight power you feel over another person by diverting their attention to you, that's momentary, right? It's like it's something, it comes and it goes, and it's fun, and then you get like the fanatics, the Christian fanatics that say that you're going to go to hell just because you're wearing a Marilyn Manson T-shirt. At least back in the '90s, that's how it was.
Hmm.
Um, but I think beyond that, it has a lot to do with self empowerment. I think you know a lot of people misunderstand the look and think that it's putting out there and saying saying to people, I have some type of dark, spooky power. No, it's about self-empowerment. It's about, putting yourself into a position where you feel powerful in your own skin. And I think that kind of goes directly back to what you're talking about. Like, it's like, when you come from a situation where, maybe, people didn't listen to you. People didn't, think that your opinion mattered, or, you just felt like, cast out and pushed aside. That empowerment that you feel, knowing that you actually feel comfortable with yourself regardless of what other people think. I honestly think that, it's a very ritualistic thing. I think, it's something that we do, and everybody does it. It's not even just goth culture, right? You get the guys, with the perfect muscles at the beach, walking around without a shirt on, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do that because they know that's going to grab attention, right? And they feel comfortable in their own skin, right? They're empowering themselves by showing off what they believe to be an asset, or people that go to church. Church is a perfect fucking example. You go to church on Sunday, there's a reason. I'm sure all of you have heard this. Put on your Sunday best, right? So it's like, honestly, like, I think, church, especially Catholic church, like, it's just a fucking fashion show, especially when they go to receive the cannibalized Christ. It's it's very prominent in that it looks like a fashion show. Everybody's wearing these suits and these dresses and these things like that. This, like, basically kind of like judge each other who's wearing, like, the most expensive name brand piece of clothing in the building. So I think it's kind of like, it's prominent. This idea of, like, this kind of ritualistic fashion is kind of like, is prominent throughout society and throughout, like, just kind of like a lot of different kind of like cultures and ideas, not just goth culture. I think everybody does it to a certain extent. People want to be seen. They want to be heard. And what's the easiest way to be seen? Oh, you're going to catch somebody's eye with how you're dressed, right?
It'd be similar to just people who choose to have tattoos. I have a few myself. I need to get more. How you dress, how you present yourself, represents yourself. How you project yourself in the world, more or less. Everything has meaning. Is where my thinking with tattoos. That's why I brought the tattoos up. Is that what you choose to wear, how you choose to wear it, the tattoos you choose to have. All of that has power. It has meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought up like Sunday best and just some of the rituals that occur there, like body of Christ and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
all of that has meaning as well. So that's where my thinking has gone as far as the rituals we choose to have in our personal life every day that have meaning. It may not be direct meaning. It may be allegorical and whatnot and be more symbolic of a bigger picture inside and what you want to accomplish.
I agree. I agree that, like, I mean, and I think, like, the important thing, okay, as occultists, I mean, Maeve, did you consider yourself an occultist?
I would
Never
think
actually
so.
asked you that question. Okay.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
did.
I did?
I
Okay.
do. I do. I don't necessarily consider myself following any one particular path. I've sort of picked up many different things from different places that felt right to me and sort of kept with it. I still think in
Like,
terms of energy and whatnot myself more than not.
well, I mean, that's kind of the point of the path, though, right? Like, I mean, like, the craft, like, witchcraft or magic and things like that. It's something kind of like you get to piece it together, what feels correct to you. Right? Like one of the things that, like, we've kind of always kind of discussed, at least I've always talked about, is that there's really no one true way, and I think that's one of the primary and first reasons why people are attracted to the craft, is because they're not, they don't go into it with these set guidelines of this is what you have to do and this is what you need to do and this is how you need to dress, this is how you have to look, and this is how you have to talk, and you can't do this and you can't do that. You know, I think we kind of essentially kind of moved into the craft with the idea of like, had like, all of us having an issue with authority, and it's like one of those situations where you can completely defy the authority of the church and not really worry about, at least in this modern day and day and age, worry about any type of you know repercussions for your choice of not following the church. So I think that's what kind of attracts a lot of people to it. And I think one of the things we always get a lot about when we talk about the occult, we talk like you guys, we always get like, these big videos where we're talking about how to invoke a demon or how to invoke a spirit or how to do this ritual or how to, do this thing where, you do these special, if you're just normal pagan or Wiccan, you do these rituals on these Sabbats. And I think that we kind of glaze over or skip the idea of our day-to-day rituals, like the things that we do every day. Again, going back to like getting dressed or making food, the food that you eat, taking a shower, making your bed. All of these things are very ritualistic. I mean, we consider them routine. We say them these are just routine things that I do every day. I wake up, I make my bed, I take a shower, I get changed, I go to work, I come home, watch TV, play a few video games, go to bed. But I think, inside of that routine, that daily routine, there is an aspect of ritual to that we can take advantage of, outside of, kneeling in front of our altars. So, and I think, fashion is a big part of that, because fashion is like kind of like that true external manifestation of who you are as a person, right? That's like really what that is, which is why, like, that's the focus tonight, because fashion is that thing that you can immediately see. I want to feel a certain way, so I'm going to dress this way. Right, to feel this way. Like, let's say you're going for an interview, right? You're going to go for an interview, job. You really want this job. So you're going to dress accordingly, or how you feel that you should dress to that, to the occasion, right? And the reason you're going to do that is not just for yourself so you can feel empowered yourself, because it actually has been proven psychologically that, dressing nicer makes people feel different, right? Makes them higher up even if they're not. Right. So we do that. So inside of ourselves, we can grab that, that energy, that boost, kind of be prepared for the thing that we're going into. And that's one immediate manifestation that we have. Then there's that immediate manifestation of, how you look, like knowing that you look good or feeling good in your own skin. And then again, there's that, third party manifestation where how you look affects the person looking at you. So if you go to a job interview and you're not addressed, quote unquote, appropriately for the job interview, that the impression that you're going to leave or what you're going to manifest is not essentially what it is going to be that you want to manifest. But if you go dressed accordingly, how you feel that you should, then you probably are going to kind of get that response that you're looking for. Again, going to receive manifestation. Manifestation is again going to happen. But I think that fashion is definitely, if you look at it in a ritualistic and magical sense, it is like, that pinnacle of, immediate manifestation and results of what it is that you're trying to achieve. Right? Again, this goes through everything. Some people dress for other people, right? Some people put on a particular outfit because they know somebody else likes that outfit. I mean, you can't take something mundane and make it magical any more than that, right? Because you're talking about if you have somebody if you know somebody that you likes a particular outfit that you have, you think that they're going to like it, put that on with the intention of that person noticing that outfit and having a response to that outfit. Doesn't guarantee that it's going to happen, but there's a high likelihood that it is. And, again, like that immediate manifestation, that immediate gratification and understanding that what you're doing is working and kind of bringing the results that you want.
Yeah. Just thinking about everything we're saying here. Like, as far as just my day-to-day work, just to give an example, I guess, is for a lot of my career, it has been business casual, more or less. A lot of people are familiar with that, I guess. Not everyone has the luxury of like t-shirts and baggy clothes in an office environment.
Right.
So, so for myself, it's always been what I would term corporate goth almost. It is mostly it's all black, pretty much. Some color here and there depending on availability,
Yep.
but black black shirt, black tie, black pants, black shoes, not shoes, black boots, still the rings, necklaces, that sort of thing. Back when I was dyeing my hair, purple black hair dye, but still very professional, but still very goth, depending how you want to look at it. So that's my daytime persona. And then at night, totally different. It could be back into fishnets, whatever the case is. If I'm going out that night, PVC pants, fishnet shirt, whatever it is. So there's always that flip in mental thinking as well.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as work wise, yeah, that's been and has been my dress code more or less for most of my working career, and that there has always been a source of power. 'Cause it's myself. I'm controlling myself and how I want to present myself and how I'm thinking as I'm dressing for the workday. And there is a certain amount of power, as you said, as far as knowing that, or at least feeling that you look good in what you're putting on,
Mm-hmm.
and someone else noticing that and seeing that too. So you're manifesting what you want in the workday by how you dress.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. Exactly. And sadly, I mean, um, Ziggy mentioned in the chat here that the act of getting ready for work, the whole process of taking out the piercings, not being able to wear, the particular makeup style, that's preferred and things like that. Sadly, there are obviously going to be, particular situations where, work isn't going to allow you to look the way that you want to look. And I think, within that, I think there's still kind of like this aspect of ritual. It's kind of like trying, like what Maeve just said, kind of like corporate goth, right? Trying to figure out a way to incorporate what you can incorporate to make sure that you still feel good in your own skin. The beautiful thing about, goth culture and goth fashion is extremely versatile. Like, I mean, there's like 100,000 different ways, to kind of like express kind of like that idea of who you are as a person. And I think, while still being able to, maintain, that level of professionalism that is necessary for wherever it is that you're working. I think it's just a matter of kind of trying to find it, that comfortable middle ground. Like, so for example, if you can't have piercings, try normal jewelry, try a ring, try a necklace, things like that. Um, me, for example, I like big baggy trip pants and Jankos and things like that. If I can't do that, then I'm going to try some flares, so they look a little bit more refined, but, they, you know, um, still fit what the aesthetic is I'm going for. Right? It's one of the reasons why I think so. For example, brands like Killstar do a lot of black on black kind of designs, so that way the designs don't jump out so much. That it's to kind of like it's at a point where it's like you can still wear this shirt, know that it has something on it, but it's not in everybody's face. Like, I think that's kind of why they do a lot of like what they do with their clothing. I have a black button down that has a huge pentagram on the back, but unless the light hits it right, you can't see it. So I think that's kind of why they do what they do. Owen, also welcome. Funny the amount of people that have found this channel through you who will not be named ever again on this channel. Uh, that's right, Maeve. You weren't around for that fiasco.
No, no, this is all new, so don't feel you
Yeah,
need to explain it right now.
yeah. That was that was a shitstorm. So, just to give you kind of like a quick recap. So this whole channel kind of got kicked off because of one reaction that I did. Um, I don't know how long ago it was. A few months ago, maybe going on 6 months ago, I guess. Um, I bought a tarot deck. Light will hit it just right so you can see the occult tarot.
Is that on the right camera?
No, you need to be looking at
Okay,
it. So here, I'll move it over here so you can see it. It's right there.
thank
You
you.
can see it on Skype. There you go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. My
All
fault.
right, so yeah, so I bought that as the occult tarot. So I bought that. And but before I bought it, I was just kind of looking up. I was trying to look up reviews on the deck, just to check, like card stock, the size of the cards, the type of artwork that was on it, stuff like that. I stumbled on this video that said Demon Terror. And it had a picture of that deck. And I was like, what the fuck? And so I started watching the video. And half of the shit that I saw in that video just drove me up a fucking wall because 90% of it was just completely wrong. And so I did a reaction to it. And my thought was it was just going to be that one video on that one person, and that was it. And then it turned into a whole string of fucking videos on a bunch of other shit because people were telling me, react to this one, react to this one. And so I started doing that until it reached kind of like a spearhead where, like, I called her out on a particular thing, and she ended up doing a video on me. And then I responded to that video, and then yeah, that was pretty much it. Oh yeah, it was a fucking shit show. Because the thing is like, I mean, I even lost my cool when I did the reaction, that last reaction to the one where she was talking about me specifically. Yeah, I went off. I went off. I was just like, yeah, So I refuse to react to any more of her content. It's honestly a waste of energy, a waste of time. The content that I have done is there. What it is that I had to say about things prior, feel free and go forward. I've crawled her page a couple of times, and there's obviously been quite a few things that I have, shall we say, distinct opinions on that I know that, are in contrary to what it is she's saying. But I'm just not going to kind of fall into that game and be that guy that, I don't want to be that one trick pony that just reacts to one person and that's it. So that's not going to happen. The mission of this channel is significantly larger now in this community than reacting to one idiot that,
Yeah, the way I look at it, just not to cut you off there, if I am, let me know.
Go for it. No.
Reacting to things, just as far as to use a metaphysical sort of spin on it, I guess, it's a negative potentially. Well, definitely, depending how you want to do it. So you're always focusing on something that's negative rather than a positive, and that could really stay with you and seep into your thinking anyways. Because you're always in the mindset of picking something apart. And that could be a self-picking something apart as well, eventually, if you weren't already. Like, in the general broad, I'm not talking about you particular, but in general,
Yeah.
the person doing this, like, it could really, you could start that conversation in yourself while you're doing this, and that could continue on another path you don't want to necessarily walk. But focusing on the positive and things you want to focus on is a far better thing, and not taking heed to necessarily the people who want to deviate you from that path. I don't know.
Exactly.
Not
No,
sure that makes sense, but
it does. It makes perfect sense. I'll just fucking say it. With Paranormal Witch and Noella, I agree with both of you. I agree. Um, Anywho, so yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, so kind of putting myself into that position, I did kind of start to notice that like my brain was in a constant state of trying to rip things apart, and I'm generally a pretty analytical individual. So I have a tendency of kind of like overly analyzing everything, including people.
I can appreciate
Um,
that.
so, like, I think it's just kind of like a natural kind of defense mechanism that like I've kind of built up over the years. So, like, especially after kind of like I had, I'm no expert, but have a decent understanding of cold reading. So, like, the ability of kind of like looking at somebody and then kind of like just kind of picking up off like, the mannerisms and the way, certain things like facial expressions, the way the head moves, the way the eyes move, things like that, the tone of the voice, the particular language that's being used when, if, for example, if you're typing texts, if I'm texting with you, like, I don't know, if I've have like an extended period of time, speaking with you over text, like what happens is I automatically begin to kind of like pick up on particular types of language that you use when you're in a good mood, the type of language that you use when you're in a bad mood, and things like that. A lot of people say, well, you can't tell the emotional state of somebody via text. And, oh, no, yes, you can.
I disagree with that as well. Yeah, you definitely can. Definitely,
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, especially if you pay attention, like we all have a particular vernacular that we use, like depending on the mood that we're in. Like if we're super happy or excited or something like that, like we definitely, so we definitely kind of like use particular language, like depending on how we feel. If you're super excited, if you're sad, something like that, and then like if you're in tune to that, you're capable of picking that up. Um, you know, off of somebody. Of course, yeah, I know Mystic. I mean, you can also significantly misread text emotion as well. Yes, you most definitely can. Um, but it's one of those things that I think more often than not we don't. Um, I think it depends on how well you know somebody and how long you've been talking to them. I think it takes longer to kind of be able to pick up on like somebody's emotional state via text than it does like actually looking at the person.
Yeah, I think it really does depend on the connection you've built with the person as well. And again, I'm going back to energy connection. That's because that's how I think and experience the world. So even like you and I or other people I've talked to, uh, eventually I start picking up as far as a feeling of what I'm getting from what you're saying, whether you're saying it or whether you're not saying it. And other cases, I even start anticipating what you might be thinking. Like I've got plenty of different um, experiences where I would be just doing something, and I would be talking with someone, and in my head I have a thought of they're going to say something like this, or I have a thought come up, and then they say it afterwards. So it's
Mm-hmm.
you sort of get the energy from them and sort of interpret it, even before maybe they understand what's going on as well.
Oh no, definitely, definitely. Um, and of course, I mean, mystics in there. I disagree. Period.
With what?
I think he disagrees because he says he says and you can also significantly misread text emotion as well. And I mean, I agreed with that. I said yes, that can happen. And I think with the next comment that I made after that, he disagreed.
Fair enough. I know you can definitely misread at times, depending if you are depending on your emotional state at the time. You can project most certainly, and that's more of a self knowledge, self reflection that you have to sort of continually do to really understand. Okay, how am I feeling? Am I reading them right, or am I reading myself and just sort of seeing myself in the situation?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, Mystic, there are people that, like Maeve is saying, project, like unintentionally project what it is that they're feeling with, how they say something, right? Um, yeah, no, I get that. I get that. What that all also kind of goes back to kind of understanding through time, like how somebody writes something, right? So the cues that kind of get thrown off, like when somebody's texting, are significantly smaller, and it's significantly easier to kind of misinterpret text than it is to kind of like misinterpret somebody's, like, physical or vocal response to something. Like, so let's say like on a phone call, then there's a lot more that you're picking up on. There's a lot more that you're taking in, right? You're taking in breathing patterns. You're taking in, time it takes to say something. You're taking in, the tone of the voice, how high, how low, these types of things. And all of this is going to be based off of like what your brain, or what like you as a person, dictates as being typical to that individual. Now, you can choose to pay absolutely no mind to the cues that are given to you via text or otherwise. I mean, anybody and everybody can do that. You can choose to kind of ignore the cues, um, which some people have, others, or you can use it as kind of like, a telltale sign that something's up, right? You know, most people, for example, with me, know that, like, when I'm into a conversation, I generally kind of give, you know, full and lengthy answers. When I'm not in the mood for it, like, or just something's off, start going short, start giving short answers. Some people pick up on it, some people don't. Well, I can think of one person in particular that they know very, very well that if I write an answer like fine or okay, that's kind of like an immediate pickup to say, okay, something's not right. They very in tune with that. So it kind of depends. It really does. Um, person, how well you know the person, how long you've been talking to them. Like, are you in tune on picking up on those kind of things? Are you not in tune on picking up on those kind of things? So there's a lot that kind of goes into it. Um, but I do agree with you. You can significantly misread text. You can, like, for example, if you're talking about like a time situation, right? You're used to somebody talking a particular way. They don't have the time to answer you in the way that they normally do, and they switch up how they answer dramatically and very quickly in order, for the sake of time, and that can trigger a misread of the emotional state of the message. Of course, I completely agree, but that didn't negate the idea that you can still tell a good portion of the time somebody's emotional state through text if you have a decent understanding of them and their writing habits. It's the same thing with handwriting. Most people thought that handwriting was like being able to read somebody's personality through handwriting was absolutely fucking insane. And it's one of like the most accurate sciences I've ever fucking seen. Depending on how somebody writes something out, dictates their parts of their personality, their emotional state at the time that they were writing it. Because it, like, kind of like the physical connection to the pen and the paper. Um, and for a long time, people thought like it's stupid. It's fucking, it's crazy. It's, there's no science to it. There's nothing to back it up. And well, we have learned through history that that's just not true. That you can take something that somebody wrote by hand, look at it, and tell a lot about them by how they write things. So.
As far as the yeah, I know. I'm just making sure. As far as the what Mystic stated, as far as projection, I still think there's always a danger to that. But my experience is, if I ignore what my intuition says and what the energy I'm picking up off of, it comes back. and time and again, I'm proven correct. This is more the case of knowing your audience and knowing the person you're talking to. If it's just some random person I don't really have any established sort of energy or connection with, yeah, I could definitely misread it. But if it's someone I really know and I've been speaking to them for months, years, and I know them, you can tell. You can definitely tell when something's off. Um, and you had said something, and I'm trying to get back to it in my head. Um, it really does come down to knowing the person, though, definitely. Because that one simple change in how they respond to you can trigger something. It trigger something in you as far as past experience. It could be um, a memory. It could be anything, or the trigger could be perhaps they said that I don't say this word here. When I do, it means something's really wrong. So it could be just how they respond.
Mm-hmm.
So I never say hey, okay, no problem. And then one day they say hey, like okay, something's weird,
Mm-hmm.
or
Well,
like you said, short answers.
it's kind of like, so. For example, like what so Mystic is saying is remember, text isn't always personal. It can be work. It
Hmm.
can be some. I just feel like we have to be careful in attributing text. So the thing is, so going to the work thing. So going to the work thing. Generally speaking, I'm kind of able to tell whether or not, like in the past and kind of currently, whether or not my boss is kind of irritated with something that I'm doing or performance or something like that, you know, through a text message, right? Based on how they ask me to do something, if they ask me that I can come in, or whatever, like whatever the situation might be, and obviously, yeah, there's an aspect of it that that is kind of like you know being in tuned, like your intuition, the intuitive nature of kind of like trying to figure out where this person stands, because what you do is you can compare how somebody talks to how somebody types, see the distinct differences between talk and type, right? So for example, if you just left somebody and you know that that person is super happy, ever, or they're boss and they're in a decent mood, message, if you're in tune to it, you can kind of take a mental note and say, okay, so this is how this person kind of reacts to like when they're feeling this particular way, right? And therefore, like you can assume that a variation in that could indicate something maybe not so positive. Maybe it could indicate something even more positive. Who the fuck knows? But it's something you kind of go about learning, as you kind of start kind of picking up how somebody does something. Um, so, and there are people that just can't pick up on it. That they just look at words as words and that's it. And they don't read into it. But I think that if given the right opportunity, I think, anything can be used to kind of figure out, where somebody stands on something.
Hmm. And how they say something and what they exclude is just as important to me as what they have actually stated and
Mm-hmm.
said and how they said it. So when you say something, I'm listening to all of it. I'm listening to the space in between words and gauging how you look at me and the cadence in your voice, everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's me personally, and it's not necessarily everyone. Um, but that that openness, and this is part of my thinking, because my thoughts are going two different spots right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because you mentioned a couple different things as far as um, reading people, and then I'm also looking at chat here as far as Mystic
Mm-hmm.
and people opening up to Mystic and that sort of thing. So my experience has been in my work life is people can tell me really weird shit
Mm-hmm.
random times, and I've never been a person which shies away from anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when the way we communicate, the way we look, the way we dress, all comes down to that, I guess, and contributes to it. But as far as just the reading of people, it's back and forth. And I've heard some really weird stories. People never expect to tell me things, and they do. I'm not going to go into too many details, but still, it's some really weird situations at times, and that's part of the communicating. It's part of communicating and reading people, I guess. I don't know. That's where
Hmm.
my thought is right now.
No, I mean it makes sense. I mean, and I do. I mean, so I agree with what we're talking about, and to a certain extent, I agree with Mystic and what he's saying. I mean, I do think that you can mistakenly kind of add value to something that have value.
Hmm.
Whether that be positive value or negative value. You can definitely. I mean, it's the human condition. We are always trying to kind of rationalize pretty much everything and figure out why something is how it is or whatever. Um, but I think being as analytical as I am as a person, it's just it's worked for me. To try to kind of pick up on these cues from people,
Hmm.
cues that people give off. Um, Again, I mean that kind of goes back into like I can bring that full circle right back into kind of like the occultism. Um, there's a phrase that I really like, talks about magic and says that magic is science that we just don't understand yet. Right. Um, and so there is a lot of science in magic. There's a lot of psychology in magic, and I think that being in tuned with that is important, right? Being in tuned with those aspects, like even if you're cold reading, right? It's you can have it developed as a defense mechanism or something that you learned through a career, but I think that I'm going to choose my words carefully here, as concise as possible.
Hmm.
And my brain has not been in the right spot like all day today. By the way, guys, like my head has been um, all over the place today. So like if I lose my place at certain points, sorry. Um, it's been kind of a long day, but I think all of that can be kind of like included into kind of like one bag, right? Because when you're able to kind of read people, when you're able to kind of like pick up on people, like people used to do that. That used to be considered sorcery.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, it was witchcraft. Like there are people that just had a natural inclination of being able to understand people without actually fully understanding why is it that they could understand people, right, or certain things. They had a natural intuition of understanding, body language and tone of voice and how people would say things, right? And you know, within that, that used to be considered, witchcraft. People used to get fucking burned at the stake for that type of shit because it would freak people out. It's like, well, he knew that I was lying, or he knew that, this or whatever, just because somebody was more in tune with, the ability of kind of like understanding somebody. Magic is essentially just science that we don't understand yet. Science hasn't kind of dug into it to kind of figure it out. Um, but a lot of like what we have now that we consider ritualistic or magic or things like that, science explains the effects that it has on us, the way that we feel. Um, and it's very true. Like when you do perform a ritual or you do perform a spell or something like that for something you want that new job, you want the $1 million book, it requires, real life action. Like you can't just, pray or do a ritual or do a spell and expect shit to just fall in your lap, you know. So if you want to break it down to something that is less spiritual and more physical, what we're looking at is this idea that why do I keep losing my brain? Like my brain keeps like loading off.
It's okay. That's why I'm having so many issues right now myself. in my thoughts and trying to be concise. So that's where I'm at as well. So if I'm projecting onto you, I apologize.
Yeah, right. So the empathy's a motherfucker, man.
It is, man. That's what I deal with all the time.
um, yeah, my brain just like it
I
just.
apologize if it's me.
um, I was like, no, I was like right on that point, and then it's just like gone. It was just gone. Chat.
Like,
I don't know. I don't know, chat.
I had a thought just while you're talking about reading, and try to bring this back into the occultism side of things, metaphysical side of things. And when you're reading things, um, even just like this, I'm not sure how this is going to be seen. Cards, tarot. You are reading in between, and I'm not sure if you can see the cards here because I'm seeing delay on YouTube. But when I'm reading someone, I see what they're saying, but in between the cards is also being read, and that relationship between the cards. So I understand what each cards mean, but when this card sits beside this card, this could be a positive or it could be a negative for me with the way I read things. And same with this, but when these three are together, it could mean something totally different. And the way we read people is the same way as I read cards. And I don't necessarily use the traditional method, so maybe not Freud, maybe not Jungian, whatever, but I've taken these aspects. Same with occultism and this. We learn how to read and use our intuition to perform magic, essentially.
Yep.
And that's with people as well.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I think all of it just kind of plays it. I remember what I was going to say now. I don't know. I slipped. So I was talking about science, like in like how magic is just science we don't understand yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that is like psychology as a science, right? Like a lot of what was considered magic, at least within understanding, human beings, understanding how people think and like anticipating what somebody's going to do or things like that is just simply human understanding. It's just understanding of human condition. That's why there are rules and exceptions to rules. Right? Just because there is a rule doesn't mean that an exception doesn't exist. Exceptions always exist within these things. And so I think when it comes to like cold reading, I mean that's like definitely a big thing. I mean there's probably people like throughout history that just knew how to do it. Understood people. If you think about somebody who's really good at marketing, why are they good at marketing? They're good at marketing because they understand people. In order to understand a market, you have to understand the people that are in that market. Understand what people want from or within that market. I think magic has a lot to do with it. I mean, obviously there is the mystical part of it, right? There's the mystic arts aspect of it. There's that, the part of like, the actual ritual, right? Like actually sitting in front of your altar, forming a ritual and, getting that energy from it. And that's still psychological because there's that aspect of it that says, okay, I'm doing this thing. And by doing this thing is increasing whatever it is inside of me to motivate me to get these things done. That's what this is doing. It's motivation, which is the reason why people go to church every Sunday. That they're looking for some type of, higher motivation. I'm not sitting here saying that the things that we do as occultists don't exist. It's the complete contrary. I'm actually, more, physically oriented than, a lot of the people I know within the occult. A lot of people look at, certain deities like Baphomet, for example, as, representations rather than an actual deity. I look at it in such a way that I believe that Baphomet is a physical entity, on a different plane, whatever plane that is, than ourselves, and that that energy transfer can happen. Oh, I mean, we're definitely getting some fucking
Like,
Marvel Comics multiverse type shit. But
but even that's based on reality, because there's the whole multi-universe theory in quantum
mm-hmm,
physics.
mm-hmm.
Energy cannot be destroyed; it only changes forms. We are energy as human beings. We are a bunch of atoms vaguely connected. There's a whole bunch of space that we just can't see here,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we're all energy. I'm not sure what happens when we die. It's still energy.
Yeah, no,
And when we
exactly.
connect, it's all energy. We're still passing energy back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's that whole concept that like even matter, like physical matter, like once physical matter is brought into this plane, it can't be removed. It changes form, just like energy does, right?
Mhm.
Like when you die, for example, your body just doesn't disappear; it decays and it goes back in the earth, but that matter is still there, just in a different form. It's literally gone back to the earth from whence it came. And it's the same thing with energy, just like Maeve said. Like energy doesn't disappear; it just changes form, changes direction. Like I mean, the best example I've heard of that is a light bulb in your house. Right? You turn the light off. It doesn't mean that you know the electricity is gone. The electricity is still there. It's just the switch has been flipped and it changed form. You turn the light back on, boom, that electricity, the connection's made. The circuit's created, and then the light goes on. Right? You turn off the switch. The only thing that switch does is break the circuit, but the electricity still exists in that circuit. It's just not connecting to turn on the light. It doesn't go away. It just changes form. And think about it, the human brain, operates 100% off of electricity. That science still doesn't know where the fuck it comes from. Like the amount of electricity that the human body produces, science still doesn't fully understand how the human body produces as much electricity as it does. My metaphysical response to that is that the electricity in the brain is the soul. The soul is a battery. It's what operates everything. The body dies, the soul doesn't. The soul moves on and comes back and keeps going.
Like like the ancient medicine, like even just like chakras and your energy centers and how things flow through your body. Um, all those things are all connected. They're all related. They're all proven now, but they weren't necessarily by science until more recently.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And even just going back briefly, um, that's why we have shamans and medicine women who could see another woman and say, "Yeah, you're pregnant," and they're only like maybe weeks into
Mm-hmm.
it. They can tell just on many different things. So it comes down to reading energy, reading the human body, reading the person, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think that humanity has jaded itself far too much with far too much. And just because science can explain a lot of things, it doesn't mean that it can explain everything. I mean, and we also understand that, like, we also know that, within, the theories of relativity and all of that shit, you know, there's a couple of, for those that don't know, I'm an actual teacher. A couple of students that I have, we've been talking a lot about black holes and white holes, kind of like, how those things work in space. And, from everything that I've seen so far, you know, going into a black hole completely destroys any theory that we have that exists on physics. Like
It
how we
definitely
under.
destroys
Huh,
if we went into it, it would destroy our physical matter for sure.
yeah.
But I've been actually watching a few things on white holes as well recently. So I don't mean to interrupt. You continue.
No, 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 no. It's fine. It's fine.
It's just
Um,
really fascinating to me.
it is. It is. And the understanding that a black hole operates outside of the laws of physics as we know it on Earth. Now, if you look at a black hole, you look at a white hole, like they operate outside of the frame of what we have understanding for of physics.
You remember the Big Bang, how the universe is supposed to be formed?
Mm-hmm.
That if you look at the white hole theory, the Big Bang was a white hole. it's everything coming out. It's all energy coming out. Therefore, at some point, all energy was going in. And then there you go. At some point, 2 points in the universe crossed or connected, and that's what happened. Whether it's previous universe, maybe everything got sucked into the black hole, and then at some point, energy changed, and now our universe was created with this big bang from a white hole. It
Well,
makes
you have
sense
to.
to me.
Yeah, it makes sense to me too. I mean, the thing is, when we start talking about the universe, we're talking about massive amounts of energy, like immeasurable amounts of energy. Like, I mean, we think so with some of the stuff that I've been watching. So, like, a lot of people think that our sun is by no means the largest star. You know, like I've seen like these things that they call them. I don't know why they call them dwarves, but they're not dwarves. They're fucking huge. Like 100 times the size of our sun. You know, and like the amount of energy that is just in a star. I mean, if you think about it, where do plants get food? Like the whole process of photosynthesis and all of this, right? So, or why plants are green. Plants are green because they actually take the green light from the sun, and that's reflects. That's what you see. That's what makes it green. That was the energy it decided to use. So apparently, like, there's different spectrums. Like, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a physicist. I can't explain this in a way that, you know, is going to be 100% accurate or true to what is actually happening. But, you know, the sun, obviously, it has different color spectrums, right? And those color spectrums provide different things. And the color spectrum that the plants, as they decided to kind of start developing at the beginning of time, apparently, was like, hey, let's grab the green light. And boom. Plants are green. It's just absolutely fascinating to me. Like plants need sunlight to produce food for themselves to survive and to live. And that just tells me the amount of energy that star in our solar system has that is feeding into, you know, us. Right? We in turn take that energy, consume that energy, and use that energy for ourselves to continue to move forward. Now, you all are probably trying to figure out what the fuck does this have to do with occultism? And it has quite a bit to do with occultism. Because occultism, at its very root, any form of craft, witchcraft, you're a druid, you're a Wiccan, you're just pagan, you're left-hand path, whatever. Most of the understanding that we have in the occult is about energy and energy manipulation. The ability to use the universal energy that is around us for our benefit. Our own energy, pull that energy into us, amplify our energy, turn amplifying our desires, pushing that energy back out, and then hoping that energy comes back. And as it comes back with what it is that we want or need or have been asking for. Which sounds pretty much like how the universe functions to me.
It's true. If we are our own center of our own universe, more or less, is really that's how we can only perceive things. It's with us in the center, and every person's the same way. So the way I perceive things, the way you perceive things, it's all with us as the center of the universe, essentially our own sun, right? And we're always projecting and putting out our energy, and we're interacting with the universe that way.
Yeah, no, it's how things, it's just how things function. And there's nothing outside of that concept within occultism. Occultism follows those laws very closely. It's just an understanding that a building of energy, the ritual that you do, so whatever ritual it is that you're doing, whatever deity it is that you're working with, It is a building of energy. We're building the energy inside of yourself, taking energy around you, pulling it into you, and building up. You build that up to a particular point where you have enough of it and you can send it back out, which is why we have, we end rituals in a particular way when we end them, because it is that sending out of that energy. For me, it's burning something, right? So it's like I take that energy that I'm building up during a ritual, I will put it down on a piece of paper like a sigil or some type of incantation, something of that nature. I will have a mantra in my head at the time of the ritual. I'll be repeating that mantra again and again and again, right? It's not Hollywood, people. I mean, for me, it has nothing to do with, ancient incantations. I think ancient incantations are just, the mantras of that time period, right? And if you find an ancient incantation and that mantra works for you to build your energy, to build your power, then yeah, go with it, whatever. But I basically figure out whatever mantra it is that I have to repeat at that particular moment in time, keep myself focused on the goal, keep myself focused on the energy, build that energy, put that energy down into a piece of paper, and then allow that energy to go into the universe. And how do I do that? I do that by burning it. Now, some people in the occult will tell you that burning is just too destructive and I completely disagree. For me, it works. If it doesn't work for you, find something else. That's all I can tell you. If it works for you, cool, kudos, whatever. That's the beautiful thing about this. You don't have to do what I do, and I don't have to do what you do, and we can still hang out and be a great community. Beautiful thing about the occult. But that is what we do. We build that energy, we connect that energy, we pull that in, put it out into something, and then we let it go out. And then by doing that, we hope that by doing that, then that back to us. Form of the thing ever that we are asking for. It provides us the results. So that is just kind of like my idea. And I think that the entire universe operates off of that concept. And just like Maeve said, think about the Big Bang. The Big Bang is essentially a white hole, or whatever it is that we want to call it, energy expanding, which means at some point the energy was contracting, was pulling in on itself as far as it could, and went back out.
Mm-hmm. Just reading through chat a little bit too. But I'm also thinking about what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. My thoughts are a little different places. I was reading.
It's all good.
Well, I'm like a crow. I just got stuck on the latest comment I saw, which is the cosmic consciousness. So whether not necessarily God, but it could be a creator, because God is more, depending on how you want to think, is a man-made construct, the way we define it. But consciousness, the patterns as above, so below, as they say, seeing what's in the universe here on Earth as well, all these patterns are repeated across everything. We can see the same patterns in a star as in your eye, depending on the star and whatnot, and whatever the case is. But everything has a pattern, and that, to me, could be a form of consciousness, because it's knowing and it's passing that through everything.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of moving through it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just kind of like being able to kind of, on some level, be able to connect to that. And I think that a lot of people are going to sit there and think that us as occultists, we're fucking crazy. They sit there and say, well, yeah, like I'm trying to connect to, this massive amount of energy that is around us. And use that to kind of like, manipulate the, world around me to my benefit. Sounds like, to most people, it's going to sound like psychobabble. Talking out of my ass. But Thing is energy connects. Like if you think about like what Maeve said earlier about the human body or any perceived solid for that matter, any perceived solid actually isn't really solid if you go down small enough. A bunch of atoms like moving super fast, next to each other that creates the illusion of, solid. And if your entire body solid body meat sack essentially, that could go a few different ways, but we're not going to go down that road, ladies and gentlemen. But if your body kinetic energy, constant kinetic energy, then why can't that physical aspect break it down? Why can't that physical aspect, the kinetic energy that is in the physical body, be combined with the kinetic energy in the mind, which is part of the spirit? Draw from the kinetic energy that is around you, that is constantly going, to amplify that energy, bring things about. I don't think it's that far-fetched of an idea or concept.
Not at all. As far as ritual is concerned, and I keep having the same thought over and over while you're speaking about this, because we're talking about occultism and whatnot, but
right.
For the other person on the other side who may be, not saying there's two sides, there isn't, but a person who's following, say, the Christian path, going to church every Sunday, doing those rituals every Sunday. Those are all rituals. It's a very big community of people doing the same thing every Sunday, performing those rituals with those meanings. And the same things that we do on our own path, solitary, whether you're pagan, Wiccan, whatever the case is, it's still a ritual. It's still doing the same thing. That's probably not something that many people like to agree upon, but they are essentially doing the same thing. The same effect is going on. Mentally, you're thinking about something, you're putting it verbally or physically, because you're doing certain motions, you're doing certain things,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying certain things in the right order.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all invoking an image in your head, that mental energy, and you're changing your body and directing your energy towards something. We do it individually every day when we get up, when we get dressed, when we come home from work, and we change out of those clothes, begin our evening ritual to wind down. I know I do, because I wind down and ground, and I let go of all of the negative energy throughout the day, at
Mm-hmm.
home, in the evening. Like, all of this is sort of coming into my head as far as different thoughts, but they're all connected. And that's where I'm at right now as far as thinking along those lines. Trying to go through what was actually being said in chat as well, because I've saw a couple different things.
Yeah,
But
well, I mean, before we got to like STDs and herpes.
yeah, I'm not going to go there. But sure, but still, it's all mental energy. So the mental controls the physical. Yes, it's a meat sack, but that energy that binds us together mentally. This is where how you think when you're sick matters a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This her whole mental outlook on things really does impact how sick you might get throughout your life, or not. I'm sure of it. I myself haven't really dealt with a lot of major sickness. I guess I've had weird things, but mentally, I'm much different. I guess, like, I don't really necessarily fear some things, and I don't. So that probably does play in it. I'm sure that could be similar for other people as well. Yeah, I'm not sure where my head is going right now.
All good.
Over to you.
It happened to me like 3 times tonight so far, man. Like you're
Just
on a roll. You're getting that
just
going, and
too
it's just like,
many too many ideas just sort of coalesced at once, and then going, okay, now I'm trying to separate it in my head again.
mm-hmm.
It still comes down to that mental thought and that mental direction, your intent.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what path you follow. We all have that mental intent. Like I know when I am performing ritual and it is with my group, I'm gonna go that far. Um, it's when I'm reciting something that I've memorized and that I've
Right.
worked on communicating. That energy is taken from me and projected to them, and that meaning is projected not only with the words that I've said and the imagery which it creates in everyone's minds, but the energy of how I'm saying these words communicates that as well, and it changes um, them
Mm-hmm.
as well as me. I know it's very empowering when you do perform a ritual well and you perform it exactly how you envision it in your head, and you feel that energy come from above through you and out through your hands, be wherever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that path, that surging of energy, especially when you're hitting every single beat, you're hitting every single word, every emotion that you're using when you're using your hands. And I'm very much a hand person.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, it's all hands. I can feel it come in one and out the other. I can feel that connection just like this. So all of that is sort of in tandem and works together when I'm doing something. Again, I'm not sure if that could be different from other people. I'm gonna say that, but
Oh,
that's
I mean,
just my
sure.
experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure with like a lot of people kind of like experience it differently, but I think it's essentially the same thing, right? I think so. I think the breakdown for this, right? Because we're a little bit over, right? We're about 25 minutes over, but
All right.
that's all right, you know. Um, I like it just kind of like letting it roll. But I think a good closing point here for this evening is going to be kind of like the idea of ritual, right? So ritual isn't just sitting in front of your altar. Ritual is in everything that you do that becomes a routine day to day. Um, so take that time in those daily rituals to bring about something better for yourself, even if it is from within and it's just inside of yourself and doesn't get externalized or it doesn't manifest necessarily how you would envision it manifesting. Don't belittle the things that you do every day because everything, um, you know, just kind of like allow, you know, those rituals to kind of build you throughout the day. I'm curious. So we got Cult of Chucky here. They both wrong, just my opinion. Okay, why are we both wrong? Go for it. Shoot. Calling you out. Cult of Chucky. Why are we both wrong? Exactly, Jay. Slow life down to experience those rituals and acknowledge them. Couldn't have said that better myself. I want to give Cult of Chucky an opportunity to their argument. I'm always up for conversation with somebody that disagrees with my perspective or point of view. So, if they can present information that maybe I haven't taken into consideration or that we haven't taken into consideration, then, it's something worth looking at. I think everybody, should have that opportunity in a conversation like this. If, they simply disagree, and just like, Mystic did earlier. Mystic very much, very strongly disagreed with the idea of being able to read somebody's emotional state through text. that's fine. You know, I'm always open to kind of hear other people's opinions. But your opinion is based on something, and I'm curious about your opinion there, Cult of Chucky. I'll give him a couple seconds here to. Not quite what I meant, but okay. I mean, I got what you're saying, Mister. I was half tempted, like the way you were going at it earlier, man. I was half tempted to just like get grass in here. Just let's have a three-way.
Rings are off. Let's go.
Let's go. So,
I don't know. It's just as far as opinion, this is just based on my experience, though, and everyone has a different experience. Malice has a different experience than I do. We all have different backgrounds as well, and all I can really say is how I experience life is distinctly me. I can try to explain it. I can try to demonstrate it, but unless you lived it or live it or live something very close to it, you won't necessarily understand all of it. And I probably do a piss poor way of explaining it, at least during this conversation, as far as just how I live things. That's one of the thoughts I had. And I've got a couple others, but I'll wait till we're pretty much done.
It doesn't look like the Chucky's gonna answer.
Okay. Well, like one of the thoughts that I was having when you were speaking prior to this was that every day we have rituals, and every day we're telling ourselves the things, in theory, we need to hear get us through the day. Just make sure you're telling yourself the right things. Make sure you're performing the right rituals internally within your mind. That you're telling yourself the right things that lift you up, not drag you down. Because in the end, you're the most powerful person in your life. Period. And no one can take that power away from you, and no one should. And never let it happen.
$100%. Like, I mean, and that's kind of like the basis. Like when you look at the left-hand path, like in general, even if you look at like LaVeyan Satanism. I mean, I guess I'll go as far as even saying like the Satanic Temple. The idea is that you are and you need to be the center of your universe, and that you need to focus on what it is that you, right? Because like one thing I've always said to people, like, a lot of us like to take care of others. We like to be there for others. But if you don't know how to be there for yourself, then you'll never fully understand how to be there for someone else. If you're not okay, you're going to put yourself into a much more difficult situation, trying to take care of somebody else if you can't take care of yourself. So always make sure that you come first, because if you're okay, those that you love and care about around and the people around you will also be okay, because you'll be able to take care of them, including yourself.
Exactly.
So there's that. So ladies, gentlemen, germs, and everybody else out there in the internet world, thank you very much for joining us this evening. This has been the Malice Experience Wednesday edition, with a little touch of goth, a lot of touch of the occult. Big things coming, guys. Big things coming. We'll let you guys know what's going on Saturday on the next podcast. Might make a video about it tomorrow, maybe, possibly. Love your faces. You guys are fucking amazing. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you guys definitely on Saturday.